Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 9, Appearance of Demon Vritrasura, verse number 2. So we will chant by ourselves. There are only few purports. The last verse we will chant together. Verse number 2. Savai barhishi devebhyo bhagam pratyakshamuchakaihi adadadyassa pitaro devasa prashrayam nripa. O Maharaj Parikshit, the demigods were related to Vishvarupa from his father's side, and therefore he visibly offered clarified butter in the fire while chanting mantras such as Indraya idam swaha. This is meant for King Indra. And idam agnaye. This is for the demigod of fire. He loudly chanted these mantras and offered each of the demigods his proper share. Verse number 3. Sa evehi dadau bhagam paroksham asuran prati yajamano vahad bhagam matrisneha vashanugaha. Although offering clarified butter in the sacrificial fire in the name of demigods, without the knowledge of the demigods, he also offered oblations to the demons, because they were his relatives through his mother. Purport. Because of Vishvarupa's affection for the families of both the demigods and the demons, he appeased the Supreme Lord on behalf of both the dynasties. When he offered oblations in the fire on behalf of the Asuras, he did so secretly, without the knowledge of the demigods. Verse number 4. Taddeva helanam tasya dharmalikam sureshwaraha alaksya tarasabhitas tashishani achinnadrusha. Once upon a time, however, the king of heaven, Indra, understood that Vishvarupa was secretly cheating the demigods by offering oblations on behalf of the demons. He became extremely afraid of being defeated by the demons, and in great anger at Vishvarupa, he cut off Vishvarupa's 3 heads from his shoulders. Verse number 5. Somapitham tu yattasya shira asit kapinjalaha kalavinka surapitham mannadam yatsatitriti. Thereafter, the head meant for drinking somarasa was transformed into a kapinjala, francolin partridge. Similarly, the head meant for drinking wine was transformed into kalavinka, sparrow, and the head meant for eating food became a tittiri, common partridge. Verse number 6. Brahmahatyam anjalina jagraha yad apishvaraha samvatsarante tad agham bhutanam savishuddhaye bhumiyambudruma yoshidbhyas chaturdha vyabhajadharihi. Although Indra was so powerful, he could neutralize the sinful reactions Although Indra was so powerful that he could neutralize the sinful reactions for killing a Brahmana, he repentantly accepted the burden of these reactions with folded hands. He suffered for 1 year, and then to purify himself, he distributed the reactions for this sinful killing among the earth, water, trees, and women. भूमिस्तूर्यं जग्राह खातपुरवरेण वै ईरिणं ब्रह्महत्याय रूपं भूमौ pradrishyate. In return for King Indra's benediction, that ditches in the earth would be filled automatically, the land accepted 1/4 of the sinful reactions for killing a Brahmana. Because of those sinful reactions, we find many deserts on the surface of the earth. Purport. Because deserts are manifestations of the earth's diseased condition, no auspicious ritualistic ceremony can be performed in a desert. Persons destined to live in deserts are understood to be sharing the reactions for the sin of Brahma Hatya, the killing of a Brahmana. Verse number 8. Turyam cheda virohena varena jagruhdrumaha tesham niryasya rupena brahmahatya pradrishyate. In return for Indra's benediction that the branches and twigs would grow back when trimmed, the trees accepted 1/4 of the reactions for killing a Brahmana. These reactions are visible in the flowing of sap from trees. Therefore, one is forbidden to drink this sap. Verse number 9. Shashvat kama varenamhas turiyam jagruhut striyah rajorupena tasvamo masi masi pradrishyate. In return for Lord Indra's benediction, that they would be able to enjoy lusty desires continuously, even during pregnancy, for as long as sex is not injurious to the embryo, women accepted 1/4 of the sinful reactions. As a result of those reactions, women manifest the signs of menstruation every month. Purport. Women as a class are very lusty, and apparently their continuous lusty desires are never satisfied. In return for Lord Indra's benediction that there would be no cessation to their lusty desires, women accepted 1/4 of the sinful reactions for killing a Brahmana. Verse number 10. Let us repeat. Dravya bhuyo varenapas turiyam jagrurmalam turiyam jagruhurmalam tasu budbuddha fenabhyam drishtam taddharati shibam. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Translation. And in return for King Indra's benediction that water would increase the volume of other substances with which it was mixed, water accepted 1/4 of the sinful reactions. Therefore, there are bubbles and foams in water. When one collects water, these should be avoided. Purport. If water is mixed with milk, fruit juices, or other similar substances, it increases their volume, and no one can understand which has increased. In return for this benediction, water accepted 1/4 of Indra's sinful reactions. These sinful reactions are visible in foam and bubbles. Therefore, one should avoid foam and bubbles while collecting drinking water. So, we have been reading about the great fight between the demons and the Devatas and how it all started, and because of offenses. And in this section also, we see because of offenses what has happened. So, this is verse number 2 onwards we read. In verse number 1, the first verse, Shukdev Goswami is describing this whole history, this whole story, the pastime to Parikshit Maharaj. And in verse number 1, he says how Vishvarupa, who was the priest, engaged in the service of the Devatas to win back their kingdom. He was very unique. He had 3 heads. One head for drinking somarasa, one head for drinking wine, and one head for eating food. So he had 3 heads. And he was for the Devatas, so he was performing yagnas for the Devatas. And now in this set of verses we see what he has done, which angers Indra. And Indra becomes very afraid. So before Indra, because Indra lost his spiritual master because of offenses, Indra had no option but to accept him. And Indra was conscious that this priest, Vishvarupa, is little inclined towards the demons. But he had no other option, so he was advised by Brahma that you have no other option. He will offer sacrifices for you and he will protect you. He will look after your interests. So you please take him as your priest. So Vishvarupa had a very unique situation. The priest, he was related to all the Devatas from his father's side. That's how Indra engaged him in helping him. But he was related to all the demons from his mother's side. That was the relationship of Vishvarupa. So, both sides related to the Devatas, related to the demons. So, what he has done, he is, while offering the sacrifices, he is offering, here it is mentioned, idam indraya swaha, idam agnaye swaha. He is offering the ahutis to benefit the Devatas, the Indra Dev and the Agni Dev, but he has secretly done something else also. And what he has secretly done, because he is inclined to the demons, he has secretly offered the ahutis for the betterment of the demons also, on behalf of the ahutis. Means what? You're pleasing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. All yagna is for, he's a yagnapati, Vishnu, and on whose behalf are you performing that? He gets the credit. So he is benefiting both the Devatas and the demons. So Indra was intelligent. He comes to know about this and he becomes very angry. And what he does, these are all wonderful stories from the Srimad Bhagavatam. So when Vishvarupa was secretly cheating the demigods by offering oblations on behalf of the demons instead of on behalf of the Devatas, he became extremely afraid of being defeated by the demons, and in great anger, he cut off Vishvarupa's 3 heads from his shoulders. He killed Vishvarupa. Now, because of this, what happened? He became implicated in sinful reactions. Not a small sin, killing a Brahmana. But Indra, further it is said, that he accepted all these things and he became very repentant and he did tapasya for 1 year, and then something else happened. But before that, because he cut the 3 heads of Vishvarupa, they fell, and all the 3 heads got transformed into something. So the first head, which was meant for drinking somarasa, was transformed into kapinjala. It's called francolin partridge. Partridge is a bird. all three heads got transformed to three different kinds of birds. So one head got transformed to a francolin partridge bird, another head got transformed to a sparrow bird, and the third head, that is meant for eating food, got transformed to tittiri, which is a common partridge, another variation of the partridge bird, just like a sparrow. It's a small bird, very stuffed, very fluffy and very fat, and that's another bird, just like a sparrow. So this is what happened. And then further it is said here that Indra was very powerful, that he could neutralize the sinful reactions, because actually if you're more powerful than, if you're very powerful, you can neutralize the sinful reactions. But Indra repented, which was very good, and he accepted the burden of these reactions with folded hand, and he suffered for 1 year. But after 1 year, what he did, because he felt that he cannot go on like this, so to purify himself, Indra, because he is the king of the heaven, he distributed this reaction of killing Vishvarupa amongst earth, water, trees, and women. And so he gave away his sinful reactions to these different personalities. And because he gave away these sinful reactions to the different personalities, and they accepted it because the king is giving them, they had no choice. So he gave them a benediction also. Because you are agreeing to accept my sins, so I bless you with this benediction, an exchange. Kind of a business, kind of a trade-off. So what are the reactions? So to the earth, generally you see some ditches in the earth, and if the ditch is there, the ditches are automatically filled. So that is the benediction. Ditches are not good, right? But he gave them the benediction that you'll automatically be filled for the sinful reaction they took. What was the sinful reaction the earth took? That there'll be deserts on the surface of the earth. Deserts are very inauspicious. Desert is not a place where you perform any auspicious thing. Prabhupada says here that anybody who is living in a desert, destined to live in a desert, are understood to be sharing the reaction for the sin of Brahma Hatya. So it's a very interesting information from the Bhagavatam, that deserts are because of this reaction, and it's an inauspicious place. Then the second reaction that he gave was to the trees. The trees took those reactions, and what was the reaction that the tree had to undergo? The sinful reaction. The sap seeps out from the tree, which we should not drink. It is. Some of them are poisonous by nature. So that is the reaction they got, that the tree giving sap. And for them, what is the benediction that Indra gave them? That whenever the tree is trimmed, they will grow back again. Twigs and different branches, you cut them, they grow back again. That was for the trees. Then the third was for the women. And here it is mentioned that because the sinful reactions they took was that they manifest signs of menstruation every month, and the benediction he gave them was sense gratification, enjoyment in the material world. And the fourth one that he gave was to water, and the sinful reaction in the water, the result was that is the water has bubbles and foam. That's why in our deity worship also, when I joined the temple, this was the first thing that I was told. The first thing that we would do when we start deity worship in the preparatory room was to collect a bucket of water for bathing, right? And then we were instructed that if you find that there is foam in the water coming, then you should discard the water. That means there is some impure water. That's why foam. So there should not be any foam or bubbles. That is an impurity in the water. And that is because of the reaction that they accepted from Indra. And so the benediction, what did they get for accepting this reaction? That water would increase the volume of other substances without knowing what has been mixed. So you mix fruit juice, this is the result. Like adulteration is a Kali Yuga manifestation of this. So the water benediction that got, they mix with anything and it feels like that thing is higher. It's not the water. So fruit juices, they become increased in volume. So If water is, Prabhupada writes the purport, if water is mixed with milk, fruit juices, or other similar substances, it increases their volume, and no one can understand which has increased. This was the benediction that the water got. So this is the story that is being mentioned here. So this particular incidence of the Bhagavatam, we have already seen 2 wars. And as we were discussing last time, a 3rd war is awaiting. And all these big wars have happened because of what? Here it is mentioned, Vishvarupa did Deva Helanam. Tad Deva Helanam Tasya. Deva Helanam means he made an offense towards the demigod. Helana means offenses towards the Devatas. Because he was employed in the service of the Devatas, he was supposed to work for their benefit, but he's working for the benefit of the demons. So it's an offense. So Deva Helanam. And because of this, just imagine what resulted. Indra cut off his 3 heads. Just see how serious offenses can be. How the reactions of offenses can be so serious. And even before this, how did the whole story start? Here it is Deva Helanam and this story is coming out. Before this, it was Indra did Guru Helanam. This is the 9th chapter. In the 7th chapter, if you go and see, there it is mentioned, Guru Helanam. Guru Helanam means he offended Brihaspati. Because Brihaspati when Brihaspati entered into the assembly, Indra did not get up and offer proper obeisances and respectfully receive him. So Brihaspati got upset and angry. And he went away, and that's how the Devatas lost their power, because they lost their Guru's blessings and mercy. And the result, so first it was Guru Helanam by Indra, then it is Deva Helanam by Vishvarupa. And like this, it goes all resulting, all this is happening, wars are happening because of offenses. So we can understand how serious offenses can be. And that is why all the devotees, Prabhupada has taught us so nicely that how a devotee has to be so cautious in committing offenses in devotional service. Here, because of these offenses, 3 wars have been fought. War 1, War 2 over, now War 3 will begin. And that's how the demon, and a huge demon, will come out of it. So, for our instruction, what are the offenses that we must be very careful of? There are many offenses in devotional service, but 3 primary offenses that we have to be very careful of. One is Seva Aparad, the second is Vaishnava Aparad, and the third most important is Nama Aparad. Seva Aparad means offenses in deity worship, also is taken very seriously. If Seva Aparad is not there, if we worship the deity nicely without offenses, Prabhupada writes, every activity in the temple will flourish. Just see the result of no Seva Aparad. Every activity in the temple will flourish. And that's why so elaborately 64 offenses in deity worship is given. Every detail is there in the deity worship Seva Aparad, offenses in our deity worship. And Prabhupada has explained very nicely, for deity worship, the first offense is timeliness and cleanliness must be maintained. They must not be compromised. Everything is happening as per time. Everything is happening in a very clean state of mind. And most importantly, when we are worshipping the deity, we are worshipping and doing all our services towards the deity with full of love and devotion, feeling that the Lord is present, understanding that this personality understanding that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present. If we so deity worship is no ordinary thing. If we think that the deity is just a figure and he is not a personality present, then like Prabhupada says, we will think that deity worship has become a burden. My Guru Maharaj has given me a stone, Galagraha. Galagraha means burden. It is not Vigraha. Deity is a Vigraha, but it will become like a Galagraha if we commit these offenses. So we have to be reading nicely so that we understand the importance of deity, understand a neophyte, one level of understanding of deities. Deity is a representation of Krishna. But for devotees, the real understanding is that deity is not a representation of Krishna. Deity is directly Krishna. Just like if you're serving somebody, how careful you will be to avoid offenses in your service, isn't it? Are we serving the deity also like that without avoiding offenses? When we are serving the deity, what is going on in our mind? What are the talks that we are doing inside the altar? Am I very Krishna conscious? Am I serving very cautiously, very respectfully, very carefully? Am I making my offerings to the deity with love, with devotion? Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati. We should be offering all this with love and devotion. So then there is no aparad. So first is seva aparad. The second is Vaishnava aparad. This is very, very serious, and that's why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described Vaishnava aparad as hatimat. It is the mad elephant offense. You have our devotional service, our spiritual, all the spiritual assets that we have built is described like a beautiful garden filled with, many beautiful plants and trees and creepers and flowers and all. And if you leave a mad elephant inside the garden, what will happen? The mad elephant will destroy everything. Elephant, very huge, and a mad elephant. That's why it's called a mad elephant offense, Vaishnava aparad. So we have to be very careful against this also, that we don't offend any Vaishnavas in any manner whatsoever. And in case we offend, then to protect our devotional service, first of all, we must identify, yes, I have committed an offense towards a Vaishnava. Devotee should be very cautious in his day-to-day exchanges, especially with the devotees, that I hope I am not offensive. Everything can be done, not that you have to compromise on your devotional service, but it should be done in a way which is pleasing. It's not that you have to compromise on anything, but aparat should not be done. Just like it is said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, some pastimes are there, how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would rebuke somebody, but his rebuke would be taken as, and nobody would mind when he would rebuke. In that Gundicha temple, there's a story, pastime, when devotees were cleaning the temple, Gundicha temple, and some of them were not cleaning very nicely. And Mahaprabhu had to correct them, you're not cleaning nicely. And it is said that the way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would tell them that you're not cleaning nicely, should clean better, they would all feel very happy. Suppose somebody tells us, you're not doing your cleaning service properly. We may feel offended, or maybe he has said it in an offensive manner. But Mahaprabhu would do that. He would say it in such a nice way that people would. So we should learn this art, how to communicate anything and everything to devotees in a way that it is communicated, so that we don't compromise, and in a way that it doesn't hurt anybody, in a way that it is welcome, it is pleasing. Then, so this is Vaishnava aparad, and in case we do Vaishnava aparad, we have to immediately go and beg forgiveness. That is the only way to come out of it. So we should be very conscious of this. Just like, and we have so many stories, Durvasa and Ambarisha. Durvasa tried so many ways, even Vishnu could not help him. Finally, he had to come and beg forgiveness. Rahuguna and King Rahuguna and Jada Bharata. Rahuguna became very upset and angry at Jada Bharat because he was not carrying the pallaki properly, carrying the palanquin properly. But then Rahuguna realized his offense. He was a self-realized soul and came out and fell at his feet and begged forgiveness. And then Rahuguna's devotional service was protected. So this is Vaishnava aparad, very, very careful. And the third is Nam aparad, the most important. See, devotional service has so many do's and don'ts. Do's are also important, don'ts are also important, both things. This is called regulated devotional service. And Nama, Nama is the way for this age of Kali. There are 9 different devotional services: Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Padasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Sakhyam, Atmanivedanam. But the most important is Nama. And aparad against Nama will not grow our spiritual life. We will not grow in our spiritual life. So here in Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said, Bhajanera Madhye Shrestha Navavidha Bhakti. Bhajanir Madhye Shreshta Navavidha Bhakti. Krishna Prem. Krishna Dite Dhare Mahashakti. Out of the in the different kinds of bhajan, Navavidha bhajan, the Shravanam Kirtanam is Shrestha. They are the best, the 9 limbs of devotional service. And what can they give you? Krishna Prem and Krishna. It can give you Krishna and Krishna Prem. Dhare Mahashakti. And now it says, this is Shrestha. Bhajanir Madhye Shrestha, best. But now, what is not just Shrestha, but we want to do Sarva Shrestha, the best thing. So, Tar Madhye, in all these 9 Shrestha things, Tar Madhye Sarva Shrestha, Nama Sankirtana. The highest is Nama Sankirtana. And Niraparadha Nama Loile Paya Prema Dhana. Tar Madhye Sarva Shrestha Nama Sankirtana, Niraparadha Nam Loile Paya Prema Dhana. So see here again also it is being mentioned, okay, the Sarva Shrestha is the Nama, but immediately the next line comes cautioning us, Niraparadhe Nama Loile Paila. We want to get love of God, it has to be Niraparad, offenseless. That's why Prabhupada also writes, he quotes Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati also, if we are chanting offensively, we may be chanting for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. In one place he says millions of years. But there will be no effect. Or it will be very slow. Slowly we'll be progressing. So how slow or fast we want to progress in our devotional life, it all depends on how much offenses we are committing. That is why offenses in the holy name so important that every day morning for 10, all the 10 offenses, all the devotees have to read, just to remind us that we must remember these things. When the 10 offenses are being read out, we must be very cautiously hearing them, meditating on them. It should not, because every day we are hearing those 10 offenses, it becomes like a routine thing. But we must remember why every day the same thing, why we have to hear the 10 offenses, to be inattentive while chanting, to maintain material desires, to blast. So why? Because it's so important. So every day we must be meditating, internalizing, remembering to act like that. Because it's Niraparadhe Nam Loile Paya Prema Dhana. You can get Prema Dhana. And Aparadhe Nam Loile, many years. So you see, if not chanting properly, then what will the result be? We'll be under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, full of anxiety, full of fearfulness, full of disturbance and uncontrolled senses. All these things will happen if you're committing offenses. Just like here in this verse we see that some offenses have been committed and Indra becomes upset and Indra responds in such a way that he kills his guru, and then and he becomes Indra became extremely afraid of being defeated by the demons, and in great anger at Vishvarupa he cut off his heads from his shoulder. So we are in this material world. This is showing the nature of the material world. Even Indra, although he is a great devotee and he is the king of heaven, but this shows the fallacies of living entities living in the material world. Even Indra, a great king, has become extremely afraid and he becomes greatly angry. Not just afraid and angry, extremely afraid and greatly angry that he kills his own spiritual master. So this is the nature of the material world, and if you want to come out of this, we have to remember that we must perform devotional service offenselessly. Otherwise, there is no liberation from this material world. We are all bound up in this material world, which is described as anityam asukham lokam. Krishna is himself describing. This is the nature, anityam asukham. Just see Indra, so much afraid. He has won. He defeated the demons through the grace of Vishvarupa. But now because he is offering oblations to the devatas, to the demons, he is thinking we'll lose again. So every moment, fear. And Sometimes we don't realize what is the nature of this. That's why Krishna again, and repeatedly Krishna is saying this in the Bhagavad. Dukkha anityam asukham lokam. In yet another place he is saying dukkhalayam ashashvatam. This is the nature of the material world. So Srila Prabhupada would often quote Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He would say that if one is a gentleman, he cannot stay for a moment in this material world. This is its nature. Just imagine in the upper planet, in Devaloka, these things are happening. That's the nature of the material world. But these are all wonderful stories because Vishnu is involved. Krishna is involved. We'll see how Krishna gets involved later at this stage. Krishna will now tell, because the demon comes out is so huge and he's like such a fierce demon that they have to finally take shelter of Vishnu, and then Vishnu will tell them what is the solution. So in this way, we must also be very, very careful of keeping Vishnu in our mind and try to avoid all these offenses. Know that offenses are great stumbling blocks in our devotional service. And if we are focused on Vishnu, and especially by Niraparadha Nam Loile, by chanting the holy names without offenses, that is the only saving grace. Otherwise, we'll constantly be tormented by all these anxieties, by fear, by greed, by lust, by different things. So, devotional service, if not performed offenselessly, will keep us bound in this material world. Only offenseless devotional service will liberate us. So we must always remember this. We should not just be satisfied doing devotional service. We must constantly be contemplating, am I doing offenseless devotional service? At least, am I trying my best to do offenseless devotional service? We must always be conscious of this, because here we see 4 offenses, 3 wars are being fought. So offenseless devotional service. And if you see, Srila Prabhupada, right from the beginning, from the time he went to America, even before that, if you read Srila Prabhupada's teachings, you will always find Prabhupada stressing on offenseless devotional service, pure devotional service. When he landed in Boston Harbor and then finally to New York, he saw in that port, unalloyed steel company. It's a very nice pastime. And from there, Prabhupada, they've coined this word, unalloyed devotional service. And all along his teachings, Prabhupada always would, pure devotional service, unalloyed devotional service, Shuddha Bhakti is what devotee should be aspiring for, should be practicing, and constantly be praying to Krishna, please help me to do unalloyed devotional service. I want to do Shuddha Bhakti. I want to serve you purely. Anyabhilashita shunyam, sarvapadhi vinirmuktam, ahetuki apratihata. This is the way we must be doing devotional service. So we'll end here. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanand.